right, well, we are going to start. So I'm going to go ahead and call this session to order. It is 5:02 p.m. And we're in public at this moment to take public comment for closed session items only. So that's if a member of the public wants to comment on our closed session items. Is there anyone in person who wants to comment? We'll be getting to that later. And do we have any emails that are public comments for these closed session items?
Nothing on email.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 1B, roll call, please.
Trustee Edmondson, present. Trustee Friedman, present. Trustee Donnelly,
Present.
trustee Jackson Miller.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, in item 1C, we will convene into closed session. So we will very politely ask everyone to leave for a few minutes so the board can Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call our open session to order at 6:31 p.m. Thank you all for being here. And we're going to begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by student Olin Rodberg or Rodberg? Rodberg. My apologies, sir. From Main Street Elementary, Mr. Platt, would you like to introduce your student?
I would love to introduce Olin, amazing student, third grade student from Miss Mary Flynn's class. Olin, you ready?
Mhm.
You're all yours.
Wait, so I,
You want to tell us?
Yeah. You get to tell us what to do.
We can hear
You're
if
good,
you
we
just
can hear
talk.
everything?
Yeah,
so I,
you just talk.
Yeah, you got
Into
the
the
cool
mic.
mic right there, where you're at. We can hear you. You're good. Yeah.
please stand. Place your hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. SoCal Union Elementary School District Mission Statement. Staff, students, parents, and the community help ensure that each child develops the skills and character necessary for lifelong achievement and responsible citizenship in a diverse world.
Thank you very much. So, Olin, if you wouldn't mind staying up there, I would like to read this certificate that we'll present to you, and then I'll give it to you, and then it's okay with you. We can ask you a couple of friendly questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So I'll just stand up while I read this. The SoCal Union Elementary School District Board of Trustees recognizes Olin Rodberg, third grade student, Main Street Elementary School, as our student pledge of allegiance leader and mission statement reader. All right, and this is a quote from your principal. What can I say about Olin? Well, he is one of the most inspiring, hardworking, and flexible students that I've ever had the pleasure of teaching. And this must also be from your teacher. Good one, there you go. Olin's joy of learning about our local history adds to our class family's academic conversations. It inspires other students to think about learning on a deeper level. Olin is enthusiastic and knowledgeable for his love of trains and baseball. He couldn't find a San Francisco Giants lunchbox for the school year, so he and his mom made one out of a black lunchbox and a patch. Such a creative problem solver. When met with a challenge, Olin rises to the occasion to overcome. Olin is an excellent student to lead our Pledge of Allegiance.
Wow.
If you don't mind coming forward, I'm going to hand this to you. And we're so appreciative of you being here. And then if you like, we have little goodies if you'd like to take a notebook. I don't know if you have any brothers or sisters at home. And so
Yeah,
you
I
can,
do.
you do. You have a sister, so you can pick one out for your sister. But yeah, these are for kind of different
I like
ages.
your sweater.
Right?
That's really cool.
All right. So while you're up here perusing the notebook options, we'll see if you have any questions for you. Team?
Well, local history. I love local history. In fact, when I travel to towns, I always like to go to a local museum and learn how the whole thing started. And so have you been reading about Santa Cruz County or city of Santa Cruz?
I've been reading about like the railroad history up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, because that's where they built the railroad the most in Santa Cruz.
Right.
They built it down to the boardwalk in Capitola. And
Yeah, it was thriving then too. It was running. That's how they transported their goods back and forth. Speaking of trains, have you ridden on a train or?
yeah, I read on the Roaring Camp Redwood Forest steam train.
Great.
And then I rode on the Christmas boardwalk train.
Okay.
It was like from the boardwalk to the North Pole or something.
Hey, maybe sometime you'll go cross country on a train. That'd be fun.
Any other questions?
Have you read any good books about trains that you can recommend?
Read I kind of forget the names, but I've read a lot of good books, and most of them are just called trains. And it's had the picture of a train.
I'm wondering about baseball. Have you, you really like the Giants?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen them or do you play baseball?
I play Aptos Lily fall ball, and on Sunday it's my last game of the season.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
I've been to a Giants game once.
Yeah, do you have a favorite position or a favorite player?
My favorite position is probably second base.
Oh,
Cool.
Any tips for the Giants? Anyway, we're gonna go. How are we gonna get them back into the World Series? My favorite Halloween ever was the one when they were in the World Series and we would walk around with, this was a long time ago. My kids are older. People had their garage doors down and then they were projecting the Giants game so everyone could follow. Do you have any insight into how we can get them back? Where you want it to, pretty exciting game. Yeah, well, we super appreciate you being here. It's the highlight of our board meetings, having our students come and getting to meet you. So thank you for taking the time and thank you for bringing him. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Speaking of local history, our district is one of the oldest districts in the county. And it has a great history to it. Soquel Elementary School, well, the one that was there before. I mean, that school's been there for a very long time, 1859. You know, back then they just had a meeting, we'll have a tax. And the board members just went house to house and got money and they built a school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we have something on the website, but if not, yeah, you can Google it and it's really interesting history in our district.
Nice.
We'd like to get your picture, is that okay? Yeah. All right. You can stand right over there in that corner and just face out. Yeah, right there, and just face over here towards this lady right here with the phone. There you go. Just glass in there. You'd like to get any pictures? Yeah, go for it. That's-
All right, everybody smile. Oh, yeah. Everybody smile. One more. All right, everybody look that way. Oh, it's glass siding?
I gotta work my way up to that.
I just Thank you so much.
Hey, Owen, it was great meeting you.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work. Okay, awesome.
All right. Now the fun part's on. We'll keep plugging along. Our next item is adoption of the agenda. Just the agenda as a whole. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, all adopted. Next is report out of closed session. I do have a little list of things to report. From our previous meeting, which was October 12th. The board reconvened into closed session after our open session had adjourned, so we didn't have an opportunity to report that out that evening. So I'll report out that in closed session from October 12th, on item 2A, an appeal of an enrollment denial, case number 2022-2301, the board voted 4-0 to deny the appeal. For tonight's meeting's closed session on item 2A, on case number 2022-2302, on a vote of 4-0, the board voted to deny the appeal. On item 2B, settlement agreement number 2022-2302, on a vote of 4-0, the board voted to approve the settlement agreement. And on item 2C, on a vote of 4-0, the board voted to approve that settlement agreement as well. I'm happy to pass down notes if those are helpful to you. Linda,
Yes,
thank you
please.
for
Thank
taking
you.
the notes. Sorry about my handwriting. Our next item is to consider approving and adopting the consent agenda. Do I have any motions on that?
Motion.
I'd actually like to pull out item 4C for discussion.
Okay. And so
Okay.
since that is an action item, I can pull that out and then we'll take it to a later point in the agenda after our discussion item. So I'll move that down to, it'll be item 7B after our discussion items. So I'll make a note of that. So item 4C from the consent agenda is now pulled out of consent. So when we take action on the consent agenda, that will exclude 4C, and we'll hear item 4C as new item 7B. All right, so with that adoption of the consent, with that change to the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve and adopt the rest of the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt, motion to adopt the amended agenda.
All right, and a second,
I'll second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you all. Next item is public communications. Folks, as it's noted on the agenda, folks have the opportunity to email the board either for the meeting or during the meeting on items. And this is the time for people to comment on anything that's not on the agenda. Do we have anyone here in person who'd like to make a public communication for any non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any emails for public communications?
Nothing on email.
Okay, thank you. We will next move on to our standing reports, and I know we have one assistant superintendent is not available this evening, so would you like to give your report?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, board. Yes, thank you. I did miss our last board meeting. I was also on vacation. I think my staff and the board and Scott for allowing me to take the opportunity to get my first vacation in 3 years. It was a little scary, I'm not gonna lie. Since we last met, we have processed 2 additional retros, the one for September and the one for October. The board took action at the last board meeting to approve our final retro for CSEA, and that will be processed on the November payroll. So that's what we're currently working on right now. COE is doing their part of it so that we can start validating, and that will then be our last retro of the year. All units have settled. And so that's great. It's a lot of hard work. I think our County Office of Education a lot for all of the continued support that they've provided our district, especially in the case of myself not having a director, which is the director position would normally be handling the retros. And so I appreciate their help very much. Also, before I left, we had the auditors out for 3 days on site. They're with us in spirit all the time, but they were physically with us for 3 days in October to do our 21-22 year-end audit. And so we continue to process paperwork and additional items for review up and through the final audit report, which will be presented to the board in December. Also, I have been meeting regularly with Climate Tech. So our work is continuing on with both the solar projects, the HVAC projects, and our EV stations. We've had a lot of discussions on those, so that's been really exciting. There are on the state and federal level, there are a lot of grants now coming out for infrastructure upgrades, more specifically in the realm of EV units. And having worked with PG&E and other companies about different grant opportunities for adding additional EV units and additional possibly buses and grants and that sort of thing. So it's been very exciting. Climate Tech is really up on that. So it's great partnering with them because you're able to pass on information to the district to apply. A lot of these grants in the past have been super competitive because typically they go to your highest free and reduced schools first, and then they work their way down. Typically larger districts. A district our size with a free and reduced of our percentage is a really hard time applying for a lot of grants. We just don't qualify. The one thing about the grant for a school bus that we're currently completing was very interesting. It was not based on free and reduced or demographic information. It was solely based on air quality. So they looked at every county and their air quality within that county, and they ranked the applicants based on air quality within the county. So that was a very interesting way of, and part of that was our buses in general. How old are they? Are they diesel? You know, the ones that went off the road first. So very interesting process. I haven't been this detailed in the process before, so it's been kind of interesting. And then we slide right into first interim. And we just closed the books, and now we're right into first interim and working on updating and posting all of our carryovers and doing all the part that we need to do to get our updated LCFF calculations, all of the new funding that was approved and still continues to trickle in, approved from the state level and the federal level, because they're still working on their part too. So that's a big part of what we'll be doing and then presenting first interim to the board in December. And I've been able to take a few workshops since I've been back, one on competitive bidding, another on LCFF calculations. I think it's just super important. I encourage all of our classified staff. I know our certificated staff and our classified staff, they do have a lot of opportunities. But I really, I really appreciate that CASBO and AXA both offers a lot of opportunities for classified staff to take training. And so we have had a lot of interest from our front office staff to want to take some additional trainings, and that's been great. Their workshops, I've taken some of these workshops 3 and 4 times, and every time now 30 years later, I still learn something new. So so appreciative of them, appreciative of having a boss who supports professional development for us. So and that is my update for tonight. Thank you, guys. I haven't seen you in a while, sorry. Welcome back.
So I'll start with just some reflections on the incident that happened last week at Santa Cruz High School, not to belabor that, but to try to glean some positives from it. As you know, there was a hoax of an active shooter at Santa Cruz High School last week. And so a lot of us throughout the county have been trying to, learn what can we learn from that. So a few things that we've tried to do as a group of superintendents. Their superintendent, Chris Monroe, has been so gracious and just sharing out what happened that day and what we could expect if, something unfortunate like that happened in our district or in one of the other districts. And so I guess I can also say that I'm just so appreciative to work in an area where there's such a collaborative law enforcement, different agencies, right? Because that's something that you hear sometimes at other places where the communication isn't there. And from all accounts, it was a really well coordinated response from multiple agencies that day. And so even though it turned out that the threat itself was a hoax, the response was not. The response was very serious. And so we were able to talk in Superintendent's Council and learn a little bit about that. And then yesterday in our administrative council, kind of just continue, while it's fresh in our mind. It's always important to be talking about school safety, but while it's fresh in our mind and a little bit raw because it was so local, it didn't affect our district. It just feels very close to home. We had representatives from both all law enforcement agencies. We had Captain Sarah Ryan from Capitola PD, and then Deputy Curtis Harrison from the county sheriffs come out. So those are the 2 agencies we work with. And they sat around here right with all of our principals and administrators, and we just kind of went through our code red procedures. Any questions we might have. I offered, law enforcement, like, we're not here to just put you on the spot. We want to share our procedures with you and have you beef up anything that you can that you think we might need to improve on. So I just really appreciate the fact that they're willing to come to that and take it with such seriousness and, in short notice, come and just collaborate with us on how we can best protect our students. And so, like I said, even though it's a negative situation, I really believe the collaborative response, the community response has been very positive. Continuing to enjoy my weekly school visits, getting out to the sites and touching base with each principal, actually getting into classrooms when the time allows. And it's neat because rather than going when there's just a big event or something, you get to see just those little slices of great instruction. Last week, I remember seeing a first grade teacher at SoCal teach something as simple as pop out words. And, think of first grade writers and teaching them how to use descriptive language and how fluidly she went from, having them on the floor and just doing a couple of minutes because that's about as long as 6-year-olds can sit, and then moving them to their tables and seeing how quickly that went from instruction to them producing something on writing. Is those little magic moments that our teachers have with students is really rewarding to get out and see. Halloween was a blast. The district office staff went out and got some of that kid energy and school energy. We joined ourselves and invited ourselves to the SoCal Elementary Parade around the block. And that was just, it feels like something out of old times, just like there are people sitting there literally on their front yard waving, to go by. So very appreciative that the staff there let us join in on their activities. And then Michelle and I were judges at Brighton, seeing all their very creative middle school costumes. So nice to be able to get a little bit of that school energy. And I was gonna talk about ELOP, but now it actually works out really good that this, that the item has been, put into a separate item regarding the ELOP coordinator. I'll talk about ELOP at that time.
Okay,
Well, that's all for me.
thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 60 items from CSEA. We have Lynn here.
I'm Lynn, I'm McCow, Vice President of CSCA, going on my 19th year with the district and currently at New Brighton. We don't have much to report other than we're all really excited to get our raise this month. Thank you, Michelle, and for all your hard work. That's about it. Everybody seems pretty happy and quiet so far. Knock on wood.
I meant to say something in the consent agenda, but certainly our congratulations to Ms. Sun on her retirement.
Yeah,
announcement. I forgot it. To you too as well, Linda.
Thank you.
But right, Sun, boy, it's been more than 30 years, I
Yeah.
believe. So our congratulations to her.
Good for her, for sure.
Sorry that I intruded. I just really wanted to get that out there. Next is items from SoCal Education Association. Monica. Yes, Monica.
Monica Naudi, 6th year in the district, first year as the SCG representative for SEA. I just want to start by saying Feliz Dia de los Muertos, second day of the Muertos. And despite what my daughter might say, it's not a cultural appropriation if you make an altar or an ofrenda at your house. You should feel free to do so and ask me if you have any questions about that, because I have several going on in my classroom and my house. So we continue in SEA to attend professional development trainings on our own choice and time. DR Martin and Ann Wilson from Main Street attended a workshop on becoming an LGBTQIA+ model school, and are moving forward with a site administration and design a school-wide plan for how to ensure that LGBTQIA+ families and students feel safe and included in the school setting. I myself attended a workshop on LGBTQIA+ inclusive curriculum, which I'll be continuing to explore and implement. I am racial and social justice warrior and will be until past the day I retire. So they were both excellent. They're through the County Office of Education. The first grade team at SoCal Elementary will be attending a training on project-based learning this week. And we're continued, SEA members are continued growth as educators so we can provide positive learning experience for all students. For many years now, the teachers at Main Street have mentored student teachers and observers through Cabrillo College, UCSC, and San Diego State. There are 3 student teachers and 3 student observers in the classrooms on Main Street, and a new round of education students will be placed in the spring. In spite of the extra time commitment that CA members are choosing to invest in the process of developing quality future educators for the students in our community. We also very much enjoyed having families back on campus for Halloween celebrations, parades, and parties. And speaking of candy, it's the gardens, it's become quite noticeable to our attention that there seems to be kind of a backslide on the healthy food policy. So there's been a lot of discussion among teachers and support staff that there appears to be a lot of before Halloween, even just candy and lunches. And so we're kind of returning back to a solid enforcement of a healthy food policy where there's no candy and no soda. We'd love to see a district-wide agreement on that. And it's not only to help model a healthy lifestyle, but also to support student success throughout the school day. This is just an aside from what I emailed you. I just wanted to comment on the law enforcement collaboration that it's been several years since we had a training from the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office, and I found that very valuable. And as we always, continue to evolve as a district and have staff turnover, so it would be great to have another professional development around the kind of shelter-in-place drills and just teacher preparedness.
So PD Harrison will be working with Craig to get on their staff meeting.
Yeah, I love it. I can say that in 26 years of education, it was the first time that I've had an actual earthquake with children. And we had the earthquake drill the week before, and we were about to take a quiz, and I said, I was like, what's going on? And they're like, earthquake, get under the desk. And they all did. They all just did it quietly, and then they lined up and they evacuated, and I, in all these years of educating, had never really considered the emotional impact, because afterward they were, I'm scared, I'm
Mhm.
scared, can you hug me? I need the cool down corner, and I'm here, we're here, little ones are good, they prevent a big one, so, we're just on board with the current events in that way. And just to close, we just want to make sure that everybody in our district is doing their civic duty and voting. That's all for SEA.
All right. Kindly. All right, we'll move on to items from trustees. Anyone in particular want to start or go down the row?
I'll start. I went to the New Brighton Middle School hosted the Matsiko Orphan Choir. And that was really special. Wow. They just had so much energy, and Christina was there, and she it was just yeah, they danced, they talked about what life was like, and it was a positive event. Yeah.
I attended the Santa Cruz Gardens Fall Festival and also saw the New Brighton Middle School band. The advanced band played the first concert of the season. So that was
That's great. Well, I have nothing to report out on, but I did see the group. They were down in Capitol on Waves contest, and I volunteered for that for a couple of days, and they are great.
Yeah.
They're a great group of kids too. And thank you for putting the artwork up. I think that was up here. This is fairly new here, so be sure to take a look at the fabulous artwork that makes our boardroom quite colorful.
So that's from the smallest.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
For myself, I don't exactly have something to report out on, just some commentary. In terms of the recent events, the earthquake, I really am very grateful for the district's quick response. I found it very comforting as a parent of the student in the district that we kind of quickly got information that our kids were okay. And then I happened to have a child who was at science camp and also quickly got a dispatch. They've been at science camp, I think, for an hour, maybe half an hour after the earthquake. So it was very comforting to hear back so quickly that our students were okay and safe, because it had been a while, I think, since folks had experienced one in school. So that was, again, just the incredible value in clear communications in a timely way. And then on a personal note, I do happen to have a student at Santa Cruz High School, and so went through the experience last week with the Code Red, and then another experience on Monday with yet another shelter in place, kind of a copycat situation. And to me, it again, clear and frequent communication from the district is so incredibly helpful. There was real value in having our online, student database portal information. That was a really quick way for the district to be able to push information out to parents, for example, knowing who your emergency contacts are, right? That was a situation where people had to be picked up from a different location at a different time. And so that was a really useful tool. And then just again, the incredible value of having the focus that we do have on mental health in schools and having counselors available, and what something like this looks like now in schools as opposed to what it could have looked like 5 or 10 years ago in terms of the resources that districts are focused on and able to provide for social and emotional well-being. It's a terrible thing to happen. That's on a large scale of things that can happen. I'm grateful that we all as districts are focused on being able to not just meet our students' needs, but the families and our staff, of course, because it's a lot to go through. That's it from me, but thank you for bringing it up and addressing it for our district. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on then to our one discussion item. So that's item 7A, our discussion on superintendent's evaluation and goal setting.
So this is one of the items we do, just make sure that superintendent's evaluation is on point throughout the year, and then we don't rush and when it gets towards the end of the year and go, oh yeah, we have to do that. I've always been very appreciative of that, because in some districts that's how it works.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the board takes my evaluation very seriously and strives for clarity, so that when we get to that point, everybody knows what's taking place. And so In the status section of the memo, you can see it kind of outlines when we get to the spring, what will happen at each step when I submit my own self-evaluation regarding my goals, how the board will go about working together to develop a collaborative evaluation. And when we talk about it in closed session and then actually, so spells it all out. So then when we get to that time, we're already figured out. So just wanted to see if there's any input on that process or any tweaks or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the correct wording. We have. Just in the board policy,
Mhm.
may provide additional opportunities throughout the year to review the superintendent's progress. Maybe because we're getting new board members in December, perhaps meeting before April, maybe to just kind of show them your goals and kind of like what to look for might be helpful for when we eventually have to do the evaluation.
A good idea.
Yeah, so maybe just another discussion item for somewhat early in the year. And the refresher of goals and process, that's great, yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments on this one? No, the dates look good to me as far as, you know, that gives us the good amount of time and get the work done, so nothing else from me. Okay. Great. Do we have any questions or comments from the public here in person on our superintendent evaluation process? Any emails?
Nothing on email.
Nothing on email. Okay. Keep trying. Well, with that, this is not an action item for discussion, so on to our next item. So that's where we're going to be moving the item that was in closed session. I made a note. I think it's on page 13 of our docket. If anyone needs to scroll back to that, and so just get that. So it is a discussion or a request for action on the approving a job description for the extended learning opportunity program supervisor job description.
So I'll talk a little bit about what's become known as ELOC, because everything has to have an acronym. And I will just say, you know, oftentimes when programs come down from the state, there's a lot of complexities that get in the way. I will just say that this program has been kind of what we always wanted. And that is, here's a fair amount of money to do good things for kids after school that can include academic intervention and enrichment. Let us figure it out. And so in some ways, it's kind of a dream come true. And so when we got the award that, you know, that all districts who have TK through 6th grade in their district received, in cabinet, we discussed it and said, let's really make sure that this is an opportunity. We kind of get to set, you know, a lot of the parameters. And so one is what the hourly rate will be. And so we set the hourly rate at, since it's our choice, and we actually have the resources, we're able to offer our rate, which our folks deserve, our staff deserves. So that was at $75 an hour. And so I think because of the dedication to students and the fact that it's incentivized properly, we've gotten a really tremendous outpouring of staff and even some parents that have been willing to step up and do either some type of academic intervention or enrichment for our students. And so it's really taken off, and that's good. It's not a downside, but if there's an other side, is that it takes a lot of coordination, right? And so Michelle has been admirably supporting the fiscal side of that, and you can imagine the extra work agreements that come through, and just all of the extra work that has to be done to process a new funding source and make sure folks are getting paid for that. And then Dr. Kieran has been doing that on the instructional side to make sure that each site has a plan. Principals have done an amazing job of getting ELOC plans in. Not something we were all expecting to do. So on top of everything that they normally have to do, they work with their staff to develop an ELOC plan. And to execute those plans, it takes support. And so we've been kind of thinking through with all of these extra opportunities that students are receiving. And that's really the main thing, is students are receiving extra opportunities, and we want that to continue. We need a little extra support. And so in order to do that, we wanted to fly this ELOC classified manager position. in which they would be a support to the district and to sites to be able to coordinate. Because if you think about after school, right, there might be an IEP meeting, principal is there, but there might be an IEP meeting, they might need to talk with a parent. And so to have an extra, somebody that can help support, where do the kids go to get their snack? Where do they wait until the ELOP opportunity starts between the time the school lets off? That sort of thing, just nice to have some extra helping hands. And so that was the idea, is that we would have an ELOP coordinator, short term, only for the time being that the funding source lasts to, which I think goes through the end of 24.
25, 26.
25, 26, there you go. So, just to have that extra support, and then maybe down the road, we would also allow for some extra support at each site that ELOP coordinator could coordinate with. And again, just make sure that all the practical parts of the implementation have the extra support, and that it all doesn't fall only on Michelle or Dr. Kieran.
Because I was specifically wondering about the job description talks also about a site coordinator or a site lead, an ELOP site lead. So how would that job description differ from this supervisor ELOP coordinator?
The site lead would be similar to what we have in summer school, where it's just somebody that's on site to help, like with those items that I mentioned, like what happens practically when between the time that are released and when the next ELOP opportunity starts. But that would be just at the ELOP rate that I mentioned earlier, $75 an hour. So that would be just somebody that would pick up those duties as part of ELOP.
But so then what would the supervisor position be doing different than, for example, the site lead?
After I'm done, I'll give Michelle a chance to talk a little bit about some of the things that come her way on the coordination level, right? Because there has to be an accounting for this. There has to be a separate attendance system, right? Students have to be accounted for. We have to make sure that we're staying to the regulations of the grant, which is no more than a 20-to-1 ratio, unless it's PK, then it's 10-to-1. And so making sure that attendance is being taken, that those correct ratios are being monitored, that leaving it to chance that that's happening, making sure that the right funding source is being labeled on the EWRs, the extra work agreements, so that when folks are doing an ELOP opportunity, they get the $75 an hour rate, not $35 an hour rate. All of that is extra stuff that has to be done in order to make sure that the program runs smoothly. So those are some of the things that this coordinator, the board decides to approve this job description, that they would help out with. Sure, you have plenty to add.
Ironically, yes, I just spent 2 hours of my day working on ELOP coordination, hence why I'm approving AP batches. Because I have not had time in my day to do the other parts of what I need to do. The logistical end of these grants are insane. I mean, the reporting, I just before this meeting today, I went through, it was a 47 page PowerPoint presentation on ELOP from the CDE on regs and the it's not just here's money, it's like here's money. And you have to prove it, you have to prove you're offering, you fall within the parameters of what you're offering. There's a pass for 22-23 on the audit guide, because they'll do implementation this year and then they'll start doing actual audit guide checks in 23-24. So there's just the logistical end on just even speaking from my side of the house, not even Jessica's, the logistical end of this grant. And then this not only touches the ELOP, what they call an ELOG, which is the extra, the extended learning opportunity grant and the extended learning opportunity program. And then there's an ELOG that's part of the ESSER funding, and these are all take quarterly reporting. So, and not only that, we do have a CSCA member here right now who is on the back end. Yeah.
Spent all my whole day doing.
Yeah, I got your emails. That part of it is what the supervisor position would coordinate. And we did talk in cabinet about logistically speaking at a site lead component, which actually just ironically came up, not just point A to B, as Scott was saying, I think that's really important too, but you have cheer camp. And at the last minute, your your person who's supposed to be running the program has a family emergency, and you've now got, 20 kids that are not gonna get cheer camp because there's no one. So we had to talk about, like, is it logistically possible that every time that happens, a principal's available to step in? Could you at the last minute find another teacher to step in? Yeah, maybe, but if you have a site lead, that if you're running 10 to 15 different after-school programs, that there's a possibility someone's not gonna be there. You have the help on that. And then the big part of this is not only presenting to the board our ELOP program, but the attendance component, and then the data that has to be produced at the end of the year that the programs you're offering have done what they intended to do. And so that would again fall back on the supervisor working with Dr. Kiernan.
Yeah, the site lead position sounds really important. I can see that having a extra pair of hands on deck that's overseeing all the different programs. I can definitely see that. I'm just wondering if the supervisor role is necessary in terms of like what we're going to spend on it. Might the coordinator position be somebody that might be able to carry that slack that you guys are talking about, that this program kind of adds to it, or does this need this big role of one coordinator with the site leads with the teachers? I guess that's what I'm just wanted us to consider.
I can just add one on that. I can't do it. I just don't have enough hours in the day to devote the time that should be devoted to this program. Like it needs the time devoted. This program is intended to help our students and extend and before and after school programs. And we're probably at its height are going to have maybe 100 programs running at one time between the 4 sites. And the logistical end of that. And this is not unique. Almost every district will hire an ELOP coordinator in some form or fashion, like either straight out ELOP or in coordination with something else. So because as we get further and further into it, the more and more is like, and more and more and more like that comes up, like it just can't, like one person should be devoted to making it successful. Part of the ELOP program then would be also to help the coordination of summer school and intersessions, because intersessions is a big thing we'd like to offer. It's part of the regulations for ELOP to offer spring break, Christmas, and Thanksgiving. But our staff works really hard, and it's really hard like to then say, do you want to give up 2 days of your Thanksgiving break? But if we have someone to coordinate that with an outside agency, we're able to provide those programs at no cost to our students through coordination.
Yeah. So you're saying, yeah, so it's a bigger role, you're saying, than just the site coordinator, the site lead.
Because the site lead was really intended to possibly be just an hour a day, like really and 4 days a week, because there's really no offerings. I don't know about New Brighton, but really no offerings on Fridays that I'm aware of. Most of the offerings are Monday through Thursday.
Yeah.
So it'd be like an hour, 1 day a week, right when school gets out, to make sure all the classes are covered. And if anybody needs additional support, there'll be someone on site to help.
So each school will have a lead or has a lead?
We would hope.
We have plural, yeah, lead,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
okay.
We don't have
All
that
right.
in place yet.
Good, okay, all right.
And is there a number of hours that are anticipated for the supervisor position?
I don't think we set a number of hours. No, I don't.
We didn't get that far. We had a lot of discussion between certificated and classified making the position, because the logistical end of this is much more logistical and coordination. You didn't necessarily need a certificated teacher. And at this point in the year, it's really hard to find a certificated teacher who isn't already teaching. So we felt that we'd have better luck on the classified supervisor position, and the site lead being the certificated position that would hopefully be able to step in.
So the amount of hours might change. So this year might be a certain amount of hours, then maybe if the person is spending a lot of time figuring out how to implement this, but then once they have it figured out in following years, maybe it would be fewer hours. Is that correct? Or
Be flexible.
yeah, so it's not set in stone, whatever is decided right now is going to stay for the full length of the program until 2025, correct?
My own 2 cents worth on that is that once you hire a person at a certain position, it is temporary in nature, but to change that position midstream, you're not likely to keep that person unless that person is the one initiating the change for their own, possibly their own needs. You know, yeah, it's really hard to say like a 10-month position because the intent of this is to have the intersessions. So you need a 12-month person really that, because as 12 months, we work all of the intersessions, right, theoretically speaking. And so that person would then be available as a 12-month classified supervisor.
I guess it's interesting, right? Because looking at a job description, and this might just be me, but sometimes you see it and you just think it's a full-time position, and I don't know if that's the case, because again, we're not considering that piece of it, right? We're just looking at the job description, so that's kind of where my question came from. It's you know, just wondering like, oh, what does it actually look like in terms of, is this a part-time? Is this a full-time? You're just not sure yet, because they're working on that piece, or
We're learning as we go.
got it.
And part of the challenge I found out in talking to some of my counterparts across the county is that this problem is before this program. I'm so sorry, it's terrible, and it was not meant to come out as a problem. This program is intended to be before and after school and intersessions, right? So then again, you're going to need somebody in this position that's flexible with their hours, because if they're not available for programs that are before and after school, it's going to kind of defeat the purpose of them supporting a program. So it's like trying to find that balance of, you know, what will work for the sites and what will work for the back end piece of it.
And then is what this person does, the supervisor role, does that continue our eligibility in the ELOP program in future years? Like the record keeping, or is this filling out the grant, the paperwork or whatever?
Or to the work that they do will keep us compliant with the grant regulation.
The funding is based on our unduplicated count. And so it's a percentage thereof. So districts with 75% or higher of unduplicated have one rate that they get per allocated enrollment. And then districts that are under 75% have a lower rate that per allocated enrollment and an unduplicated count. So our funding from last year is different than our funding from this year, which will be different from our funding in the following year, because every year it's based on your unduplicated. And so it's hard to say, but
Can you say that again?
yeah. It's the attendance and data management component of it that will keep us in compliance, as well as the quarterly reporting and the updates to the board. They're all part of requirements.
And again, the funding is all grant.
Yes.
That's why there's no fiscal impact.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the grant has to go to this program.
Intended for very specific reasons.
I do like the coordination aspect of it too. I mean, just remembering prior to this, I think a lot of these things would fall on parent clubs, right? And it was just the ability of whatever parent clubs could pull together, and it, you know, it might have felt as if, you know, kids at different schools might have had different opportunities. So I do love that we have the opportunity to have someone overseeing and coordinating, you know, and each school, like, right, might have its own particular interests and its own particular needs, but it seems as though this is a neat opportunity to make sure that everyone's getting good opportunity here, and that we're following, you know, uniform procedures. So we're not going to have one particular place that's complying in one way and another site that's complying in a different way, and then that bubbles up and turns into a compliance issue. So I think that's going to be really helpful.
I mean, that was actually interesting. In one of our ADCO meetings, we devoted a amount of time to report writing, and some of it was that came up with the plans for the sites. And I was working with one principal about them bringing in an outside company, where another principal overheard us talking, and he's like, I want them. And he's like, can I join you? And so it's like inevitably, you know, as all the offerings are going out there, which are great, these offerings coming through are just so cool. Like that part of it, I do really enjoy. I like to get to see all that. Cheer, weightlifting, band.
Sustainable fishing too.
Wow, I didn't know that
Yeah,
one.
we have probably 5 to 6 classes going every day.
Yeah.
Between the intervention classes, we have a lot of math and reading interventions.
Yeah.
And then we have sustainable fishing, weightlifting, cheer,
And
all kinds of cool stuff.
Chess
Great,
club.
yeah.
It's pretty fun. Oh, we have book club and chess and, you know, a lot of fun stuff going on. The kids are really excited.
You're not
It's a
there.
lot of work. I will say.
Yeah. You bet, you bet.
We put all snacks on a cart. We have one teacher just wheeling them around and, you know, handing out snacks.
And I was gonna say, that's a big component of it. So
It
part of the
is.
regulations of the ELOC grant in and of itself is to follow our National School Lunch Program offerings. And so we're coordinating with CNS to have our snack offerings come from our CNS department, so we stay within compliance for meal provisions. So that's again, yet another. And I'm only by the good graces of my retired CNS supervisor right now, I'm hanging in there, so.
Can I ask a question about just the way that, for example, if students are needing intervention, but they really want to do the other classes because it's fun, how does that work? Is there a mechanism? Is there like, do parents get informed your child could benefit from math intervention and reading intervention, or is it just up to the child?
I mean, obviously, we're still developing it, so it's not perfect. But I think, you know, it's applicable everywhere, but probably especially at the middle school. And I know that, you know, they are trying to figure out if they can stagger things. If one class is happening on a Monday, Wednesday, you know, could there be an intervention on, you know, Tuesday, Thursday kind of thing, but I will say we're far from perfect for that now, but the mindset is there on how can we help students who need intervention without denying them enrichment.
Sure, yeah, stuff.
Wow, yeah.
And they're doing them in segments too, so that, you know, there may be 6 weeks of chess and then it'll be 6 weeks of something else, or they're trying to stagger their offerings, those both sides of it. And then one other logistical component to the grant in of it itself is that it's a TK through 6 grant. And so we're only able to offer to the middle school because we're doing offerings to TK through 6. And then when you've done that, and you have enough funding available, you then can offer the program to 7 through 8. But the program is intended to target our unduplicated or low performing students first. Hence after school and before school interventions, right? And so that's the intent of the program. And then I'll be able to offer the enrichment and the other kinds of classes that go hand in hand with the academics.
One more question, is the before school intervention, is that period 0 or is that before period 0?
Wow.
That's a really good question. So it'd be different from 0 period because 0 period is part of our LCAP. I'm trying to think if New Brighton, so New Brighton is the only one with 0 period. I don't know if New Brighton's doing any ELOC before school. I don't think so.
No, but I can say we have like math intervention Monday, Wednesday, and then we also have it Tuesday, Thursday. So the kids can pick if they want to go to weightlifting on Tuesday, go to math Monday and Wednesday. So that might, I don't know if that answers your question.
And they have to do it, it's not a choice, like, you know, me, I do weightlifting all week long. English, so they have to do the other intervention. Offer, okay.
Then they can go Monday and Wednesday and go to weightlifting on Tuesday, and Thursday they can go somewhere else, you know, fishing because they're on Thursdays. So
Where do you fish?
they go down to Capitola Pier once a month, but then I don't know what they do the other day.
And do they work with the bait shop? And on the pier, do they work with the bait shop? Oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. No, I mean. Okay, well, okay, I know, it's like.
Go down to the pier
Right.
on Thursdays.
Okay.
And Miss Walton teach that class, right?
Yes,
And
Miss Walton.
Miss Walton's
Check it out.
spouse is involved in that industry, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
They have some connection. But that's the last Thursday of the month if you want to go down to the pier.
What time? What time? Okay. That'd be fun. Just like you were chatting. Get some fresh. Yeah.
All right, good robust discussion. Thank you for pointing it.
Yeah, really, that-
Yes,
yeah.
That's
That's good.
super helpful. With that, do I have any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Michelle knows what's coming on. We already check and see if we have any questions or comments from the public in person.
I can make a comment
Yeah.
about the before school. I know that at SoPel, we are looking at supporting some of our TK and kindergarten students. By providing parents who cannot do the because it's a morning and afternoon, but it's not the afternoon.
Early birds and later gators.
Yes. Students who truly and honestly would benefit and who would just be better served in the afternoon classes, but for certain reasons, their parents absolutely cannot get them there for the afternoon and need to have support and something for their students to do in the morning so that they can be in the more appropriate classroom for the child. And so I know that Mr. Witter is looking at using some of those funds to help support those families and making sure that those students who are better served in our afternoon kinder TK classes have activities that can support them in the morning. So I can share that because I am aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Excellent. Any email comments or questions?
Nothing on email.
Okay, thank you very much for checking. So we'll bring it back to the board. Do I have a motion to approve approve the ELOP supervisor job description?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
So the last Thursday in November is Thanksgiving. You think they'll be out there on Thanksgiving? Maybe Jake, he'll probably get some crabs and, oh, no. And then, okay, well, the last Thursday in December is.
All right, any correspondence for board members to report out on? No, next one is item 9, any future agenda items as requested by trustees? You're always welcome to email or call.
Right.
Or text. Okay, nothing for tonight. Next is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make the motion.
And a second,
I'll pick it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. We are adjourned at 28 PM. That's good news.
Thank you all three of you for the input. That